Good morning, class. This is Miss Ray, and we're going to be starting our sixth grade first project of the school year. This year, we're going to be learning about the elements of art. A lot of this should be review from elementary projects that you talked about and learned about in kindergarten through fifth grade. Our first project is going to start with the basics and kind of review and build building blocks to help you improve your drawing skills. At usually about this grade level, we develop an interest in drawing things realistically. And if we have some successful art lessons showing us how to do that, it then enables us to become better artists and be able to express our ideas more clearly. So that is the intent of this first project that we're doing in sixth grade, is to be able to express ourselves more clearly by developing basic drawing skills. To review, the elements of art are kind of like the building blocks. So if you were building a house, you have to have lumber and nails and the tools to build that house. You also have to have the knowledge of how to use those supplies in order to create a house. Otherwise, it might just look like a pile of boards by the time you're done. So we're going to be learning about how to use those elements of art in order to create an artwork. The first element we're going to learn about is line. Today, you're going to have a small activity for the first two elements of art that we're going to learn about, both line and shape. Now, you guys have been making lines and drawing shapes since you were in preschool and kindergarten. But we're going to try to think about them in a little bit different of a way. I'm going to change my screen over so that you can see what I'm drawing on the Elmo. So a line is a simple idea. It's from point A to point B. Okay. Lines can be very simple. They can be very expressive. You can have a thin line. You can have a thicker line by coloring thicker or by using a marker. You can have zigzag lines. You can have a patterned line that's like, the heart rate machine. You can have separated lines. We would call that a dashed line or a dotted line. There are millions of different kinds of lines, and lines can be used in many ways to express a mood or different characteristics. Curvy lines, scribbly lines. But when we use lines together to create a design, we organize those tools. We talked about the elements of art as tools. We organize those tools into what we call a composition. And then it becomes, rather than just random lines, an artwork, a little miniature artwork. So what I'm going to challenge you guys to do is set your timer on your phone, or maybe have a kitchen timer. Or some other device to measure your time. And we're going to try to develop a design or a little miniature composition in 2 minutes. So if you set your timer for 2 minutes, as I'm doing right now, you're going to draw for 2 minutes using as many lines as you can think of. Now, you can go about this in many different ways. The first of those is just to maybe make as many different lines as you can think of and kind of make a list of lines. Or you could create a design or a pattern with those lines. Patterns are simple. We remember patterns from elementary. In math, you can have shape patterns, you can have line patterns, but right now we're just creating with lines, okay? So I'm going to give myself a little space here on my paper by creating a border that I'm going to work within. You can do the same, or if you just have a smaller piece of paper at home, You can use that whole piece of paper if you wish to. I'm going to start my timer. I'm going to give myself 2 minutes. I want you to do the same. Give yourself 2 minutes. You can work with me, or you can stop the video and do it on your own time. Here we go. So just using lines. I can use the different spaces. If I repeat the same type of line, then I'm creating a design that has what we call symmetry. It's the same on both sides. But it doesn't have to have symmetry. We're just making any kind of line design that you can think of. If you have an idea in your head to make a face made out of a whole bunch of different lines, then do that. Because here's the thing. There's no right or wrong answer with our artwork. The idea is just to be creative for this 2 minutes using lines. So we've kind of set ourselves a challenge. I can only use lines. And I'm going to have this amount of time and this amount of space. And you challenge yourself to be as creative as you can be in that amount of time and that amount of space. Bless me. So if you're a timekeeper, we are doing pretty good here. We have about 30 seconds left. I'm not intending for you to copy my design or make yours look as close to mine as you can. I could have done a million different designs in that 2 minutes. Okay, so there's my timer going off. I'm going to stop my design. This isn't a thing that has to be finished. Okay, my own timer will stop. Here we go. You're never really done in art. I could continue to develop this. I could build a border around it. I could add other colors. There's all kinds of things that I could do. So that was our first activity for today. Now we're going to do just another real quick activity with shapes. We're going to do the same activity with shapes. The difference between a line and a shape is that a shape is closed. So if I do this, I've created the illusion of a triangle, but it's not really a triangle until I close that line. Now it is a shape. It is contained. Okay. So you have your basic geometric shapes like triangles, circles, things like that. You have recognizable shapes like hearts and stars. We also have organic shapes. If I make a shape like this, you would say that's a flower. If I made a poofy shape like this, it's a cloud, especially if I overlap it with another cloud. Okay, so there are some organic shapes that don't necessarily have a single way that they can be made, but there are many ways that you can make them. We're going to do the same activity for 2 minutes, and you're going to make a design using shapes this time. We're going to try not to use lines because we already did a line one, but I want you to think about all the different shapes that you know and how you can use those to create a little picture or a composition or a design. Here we go. Are you ready? Get started. So anything that's repeated more than 3 times, we would say is a pattern. So here I'm creating a pattern, and that's one thing that you can do. You don't have to create a pattern. You could create a nice little landscape with some different shapes or something like that too. I'm kind of staying with designs on each one of mine today. It doesn't have to be that way. You can do a picture if you want to. As I said, with the lines, you could have made a face. Here I'm using variations of shapes. I'm using small ones and medium ones and large ones, and changing the size to create what we call variety. And we're going to learn about some of these other things later on. Right now, we're focusing on using shapes and thinking about shapes and how shapes can be used in artwork. You have about 30 seconds left. Ooh, I don't know if I'm going to get done. Might have to go over just a tiny bit so I can finish my pattern I'm making. So shapes alone would just be a shape. When we repeat shapes and create patterns with them, then that becomes a design or a composition. The more complex your design or composition is, the more interesting it's going to be to look at. So today, our first art class in this project was just kind of an experience in thinking about simple lines and shapes and how we use those. Hopefully you enjoyed this and had a good time. Tomorrow we're going to be starting with the element of art value. So thank you for doing your best and being active in our virtual class. Have a great day.